We have Ms. Divya Bhatia, who is from Amity International School, Saket. Ms. Ashu Arora, who is from Central Academy, Alwar. Ms. Renu Singh, who is the principal of Euro International School, Sector 84, Gurugram. And Ms. Deepika Malik, who is from Kirorimal Public School, Sonipat. We also have Ms. Mamta Bhola, who's the principal from Shiksha Bharati Vidyalaya, Rohtak. It was unfortunate that she couldn't join us in the morning session, but she's here right now. So welcome everyone, and I'm going to also tell you a little about Dr. Padmakali Banerjee, who's our founder, pro vice chancellor of Amity University, Gurugram. She's the fellow of Somatic Ink Block Society and the member of American Psychological Society. She's also an executive and a life coach and has mentored many leadership programs. She has been working extensively in the area of positive psychology and has written a very popular book. It's one of her books, of course, which is Power of Positivity, Optimism, and the Seventh Sense. It's a landmark self-help book, and it also helps some with people who are uh, who want to attain success in professional and personal life to enhance their optimism as an attitude for better success. Her work in the area of psychology has been acknowledged and awarded. She has won an award of excellence from Indian School of Psychology Association for her promotion of psychology in schools. So, ma'am, we'll start with you. Please share your thoughts.
A very good afternoon to all the eminent panelists, all the principals from the best schools in and around I would say, not only from NCR, and I can see people who have come from other places as well. So I think, this is a beautiful journey of this 1.5 hours. We have already sat down. These days, we are not traveling. So I'm imagining I've already boarded a beautiful flight, and this 1.5 hours, for me, at least, it's going to be like mindful meditation with getting to know what each one of you are contributing. I think such a lovely month to do this program because, the month of May is a mental health awareness month, International Mental Health Awareness Month. So we have picked on a day. And very interestingly, 15th of May is an International Family Day. So thanks to Corona, you're spending so much time with your family. So there always a flip side and a good side of things. Whatever you want to see, you see. And it is a very interesting thing that while we are a bit worried about the kind of, stress that or the uncertainty that our youth facing today, but at the same time, we must acknowledge that, not everything that the technology is bringing is going to be difficult. Today, if we have been in India, been able to connect, control, or I would say restrict the spread of the virus in that manner, it has been the digital India. It has been the connected India. It has been the role of so many people, not just the government and the police forces or the doctors, but there are a lot of people who have been there. For example, I call all the school principals and the teachers and the professionals associated, they are the silent warriors. You are actually carving the future of the people in your schools. I think we are going through, definitely it is a very, very unprecedented times. If you look back, I think I'm reminded of even days of, when you read, you will see the Great Depression that took place, or if you look at the kind of problems that India has faced, at the time when you had the earthquake or when you had the world war. But this kind of, after possibly the Spanish flu, at least none of us in this panel have seen this kind of a pandemic. None of us have experienced. We have read about it. So we must acknowledge that the children today, the youth today, are undergoing a very, very uncertain time, and thus they would go through some vulnerability towards mental health issues. So it is no more a stigma. We have to embrace the fact. If you look at, ICMR or all of the World Health Organization, you know that 1 in about 5 or 7 people are vulnerable. They are sitting at the threshold. So the moment we are able to take the stigma out, we are giving a solution. So 2, 3 points in school situation, few major aspects that I'm already hoping from each one of the other panelists to talk about, and I like to know is, of course, we acknowledge that there are students who have attention deficit issues. They are breathless. So that is one indication that there could be some other challenges that the student is facing. When you look at, learning disability, and we all know that learning disability is not directly related to your IQ. So if you are able to provide in the school certain help to the learning disability, the students will definitely come out successful. And at the same time, there are a lot of other issues like anger management, relationship issues. So I think there, the angels that we have in the schools would be the teachers who are connecting with the students. Even in terms of the pandemic, I'm sure when online classes are going on, the teachers are also counseling students about the issues, the fear, uncertainties, a lot of questions related to what is going to happen to the board exams, how am I going to score, what is going to happen to my career. So I'm really looking at this session that will come out with a lot of good answers to these kind of thoughts that we have in our minds. Thank you very much, Reena. I'll come back again on the session.
Ms. Bhole, I just wanted to ask you that we just heard from Padmakali ma'am that teachers are the angels and the kind of issues that the students are facing. So I would like to know that in your school, how are you able to sensitize people about the mental health issues?
Uh, very well said by Dr. Banerjee. The things which he has just spoken in a nutshell is very appreciable, really appreciable. But yes, each and every person is facing a different situation because we are having the individual differences over there. So naturally, each and every experience. Okay, actually, I just want to share the things that before going for the mental health, we should know that for mental we need to be physically fit also for the same, because for a healthy mind we need a healthy body also, so the container should be good. So for this we need to go for the physical activities, and also we need to make an awareness among parents, although as per the Central Board of Education, CBSE, they have nowadays designed a design a syllabi in that manner only, where some at a certain I could say at a certain place we deal with this problem. But nowadays they are asking for special educator and counselor. Make it as mandatory to depute both the person in the school just to take care of the mental health of the students, to direct their emotions. Certain times what happen when the child shows certain tantrums or is a stubborn in nature, so it does, or you can say certain people, it's not exactly the madness of the child, it is the way that the child is not able to express himself or herself. And we teachers, we education is need to streamline the emotions of that child. That is far most very important. And as an educationist, I could say that awareness programs which we need to deal nowadays, we are giving certain type, we are showing videos to the parents, to the children's also. Our special educator is also helping the slow learner and making them to compatible with the classroom environment as well. But for me, a far most better way.
Okay, so I'll come to Ms. Divya Bhatia now. Ms. Divya, I just wanted to know that, we students spend a lot of time in schools, and, some of the mental issues are also related to school, the kind of stress they have, maybe there's peer pressure or maybe, some other issues with the other students. So it is very important for the schools to become the centers of well-being. And that is what my question is, that to what extent can we make these schools the center for care and well-being?
you, Reena. At the outset, congratulations, Dr. Banerjee and Reena, for organizing this wonderful webinar, and of course, Amity University, Gurugram, on an, as Dr. Banerjee said, on a very, very important occasion, the Family World Family Day and month of mental health awareness. We know that since 2013, we are celebrating the 10th of October as the Mental Health Day, because we are trying to address the so-called gap. I mean, it's not so-called, there is still a gap between the need to address mental awareness and the actual address of mental awareness and mental health as an issue. Now, can schools be, well, schools already are centers of a child's care and well-being. Gone are the days, when we went to school, or maybe 35 years ago when I started my career as an educator, where schools were just meant to impart academic rigor and maybe games and a few activities here and there. Today, schools are a completely focused, every area of the child's development is the focus of the school. So whether it is psychological support, or it is emotional support, or it is relationships at home, everything becomes a major part responsibility of the school. Now, you're saying children spend a lot of time in school. Yes, 6 hours a day, certainly in most schools, in boarding schools more. So in a 24-hour day, if you leave out the sleeping hours and everything, a substantial amount of time is spent in school. And even once they go home, I think the work that they take back from school, the memories that they're taking back from school, their friends, their interaction with their friends, all this actually affects a child's mental health, so to say. So really speaking, we are living in difficult times. Children today have a much harder time than we used to have. For us, it was all school gaye, khela, khel kood, and everything was done. We did not have social media. We did not have exposure. We did not have very high parental expectations. Not every child was supposed to get a 95 and a 99. It was easy to get into colleges. We had limited career options ki ye 5-6 cheeze hain, doctor bano, engineer bano, ye bano. Today, the child has a wealth of, a number of opportunities from where they need to choose. Adolescent issues, friendships tab bhi hoti thi, friendships ab bhi hoti hain, but now those friendships have started becoming so important to the child. They were important when I was an adolescent too, but not the scale to which it has become now. Now with Facebook, with Instagram, the child puts up a status. I think at every drop of the hat, the status is put up. I'm traveling here, or I got a new phone, or whatever. So the status update is there. And the child's morale and happiness depends on the number of likes that the child has got. Khub sare likes aa gaye, I'm happy, my best friend didn't like my status, I go into depression. The word depression is becoming more often used. And you just gave the startling statistics, 1 in 7. And I was also reading that in a study from 2018, the mental health degeneration rate in India is increasing by 7.5%, out of which 50%, half of these are children. And another study where they said that 50% of the disorders that adults have started or stemmed from the age of 14. So these are very important years in a child's life. The child comes to a school in the very nascent stage, at a pre-primary level at 3 and 4. And then we help them grow to adolescence, and then they go on to their secondary stage where they have to make their career choice. So the school's responsibility is enormous, but we can't say that schools are solely responsible. The responsibility actually is all together. It is the onus of the parents. It is the onus of the school, the onus of the society, the onus of the policy makers, which is why we are seeing a lot of new things coming into the curriculum. CBSE has a physical health education, mental health education program. Life skills has become an important part of the school curriculum. Years ago, life skills was what happened when you were at home with your mother and your grandmother and your grandparents when you lived in a joint family. Kahani sunai, apne examples diye. Ab wo life skills also has to be a part of school curriculum. Happiness. Would I have ever thought when I was a young child that one day happiness would be taught in schools? but that has become a part, and it is a very effective part of our curriculum today. Happiness, we are doing it in school. In fact, a little incident I'd like to tell you. Amity Saket is the oldest school among all the Amities, so it is 30 years old. And I joined the school in 96. So I'm 22, 23 years old in the school today. And at that time, our chairperson, Dr. Mrs. Amita Chauhan, she still is a part of every recruitment. She chooses her teachers with a lot of care because she knows that the teacher is what is going to make or break a child. So after my demo class, she met me and she said, you know, what I really liked was that you were smiling and cracking a few jokes and were happy when you were conducting the class. Because she said it was her feeling, it was her very inner feeling that a happy teacher will make a happy classroom. A happy classroom will have happy students. Happy students will go home and make their parents happy. Their parents are happy, the society will be happy, the society is happy, the nation will be happy, the nation is happy, the teachers are happy. So at Amity, and I think in a lot of other schools all over, student happiness, the parent satisfaction, all these have become very, very important. So we integrate it into our curriculum. We also address issues, you know, because teachers can identify children. They're probably the first identifiers of a child's problem. They are more privy to children's issues than even the parents at home. So the teacher has to be very alert. She has to look at these little signals in a child and then try to solve them. For example, I tell my teachers that maybe every day in the morning, you know, in the class teacher period, and we have a 0 hour in the morning where the teacher and the student interact with each other, you let the children do the talking to them. So here a hand goes up in a primary class and says, okay, how was your day yesterday? Not very good. My mama and papa fought. So I know in front of the whole class, she can't go on and ask more about it. So she can tell the child, okay, fine, we'll discuss it. How are you doing today? And what did you have for breakfast? Divert the child's attention then. And maybe later on, sit with the child and either if she's able to do it on her own, if it's a small one-off thing, koi baat nahi beta, we also fight, you fight with your friends, parents fight. Or if it is something which is more, because most teachers actually are counselors in their own right. So she needs to address it to a counselor. So all this together must create in the child and parents a feeling of trust and security in the school. So what I want to say is that schools certainly need to be the complete, you know, caregivers of the child so that the child comes in happy, goes back happy, knows that they can unburden their souls to the teacher and the teacher will be a listener. Saying that when the pandemic has come in, you were just talking about it, we are running online classes. So that is the one connect that we are not able to get through completely. How the child is feeling, however much you may do, that the class of the effect that it is going to have. Children are not face to face with the teacher, not able to share their issues with the teacher. The kind of time they're spending online and can we control it? That maybe Dr. Banerjee can also.
Ma'am, you were saying something.
Yes, I think very important points that you have made, and I must tell you that it is at the core. When you say happiness is at the core, and I think through schools, what we can make the students realize and the parents realize that happiness is not outside; it is within. So whatever may happen around you, the environment, of course, in schools is so important, but the child has to be aware. Like you mentioned, in 30 years ago or maybe 50 years back, people never worried about how to become happy. But possibly because we are becoming more lonelier with smaller families, less peer group, less connected societies, and with the thanks to the social media, the socialization has reduced. So I think it is a very important, ambition in a school. And if you look at the developmental goals, the sustainable developmental goals, there is so much of thrust on mental well-being along with physical well-being. Like in the first principle, she spoke about the physical well-being. I agree. But I would say the mental well-being drives the physical fitness. So if you are a student who is suffering from anxiety and is not able to sleep, the person cannot get up in the morning and go to the school and go to the drill or to play any sport. or to do some numerical ability tests. So we have to, really look at the mental well-being of students, teachers. That's how possibly you can have good performance. Because I know I keep following the CBSE and all the result. Of course, I'm not just talking about the final percentage that the student gets, but I'm talking about the competencies that we build in schools. So in order to build competencies and capabilities of young people so that they can tomorrow change the India into that kind of vitality that the Prime Minister is talking about, it is us that in schools you're able to provide that kind of an environment. So I really love that whole concept of how the school is responsible in creating that environment where by connecting to each student. And you have emphasized a lot on the kind of connect that the teacher is taking towards individual students at home. So to know how they are feeling. So I think that itself talks a lot. I really think that this is what has to be the future, because I can see that in future there'll be many more blended learning that will come in. Even possibly a lot of basic courses can go on to a blended mode. That doesn't mean we will stop connecting to your students. A classroom you are using these days, real life artificial intelligence, where you're using softwares to understand what's going out in the world of, say, science or an industry, but still you are connecting to the students. So wonderful. Yes, Reena, for the next participant, please, panelist.
So I would like to ask Ms. Ashu Arora, and we were talking about teachers. Now, teachers have a relationship with the student, and it's extremely important. So what impact this teacher-student relationship has on somebody's mental health?
Good afternoon, everyone. As Divya ma'am said, the teacher can break or make the child. And it is only the teacher who built the school. Without the teacher, a school cannot be made. A good teacher not only teaches, she is the facilitator to the child. She just not only dictate the lesson, she guide the children, she help the children to find out the solution. And she put forward the student like a parent who help a child when he is learning to ride a bicycle. Same way the teacher also forward the student. She also in the learning, the best learning situations which include is the positive teacher student relationship, and it enables students to feel safe and secure in their learning environments and provides scaffolding for important social and academic skills. If a relation between teacher and student is positive, a student, he or she feels safe and secure in the class and less likely shows any behavior problem in the classroom. And their mental well-being, and he or she will be benefited with the teacher safety. Students who have a positive relationships with his or teacher tend to benefit academically and socially. The teachers can and often do wonders in the student's life. For example, she is a passion. She is a bridges between the student and their passion. An outstanding English teacher who inspire a student to love writing, then goes to become a famous writer. So to cater the mental health, a teacher plays a very important role. Firstly, she should understand those causes and recognize when a student might be suffering from one. She should show the empathy and acceptance while helping them focus and manage emotions in the classrooms, and always ensure a positive and happy and safe classroom environment. As the ma'am said, happiness. We always learn the happiness, and a teacher should promote social and emotional competencies and build resilience. Teach and reinforce positive behavior and decision making. A teacher should make a specific guidelines in the classroom to help the students for the unacceptable language and behavior in the class, so that the student and teacher, they together go ahead in the decision making of the classroom. And also encourage helping, because teacher itself is a role model. What we behave, student just follow us. How we sit, how we talk to our co-teachers, how we behave with the school staff members, the peons, the ayahs, how we interact with them, the students, they are just following us. So if we want to show, if we want to learn them that they show the empathy, they show the forgiveness, and they show the heartness in the school. So first we should be the role model of the student. We should encourage them. Always be the optimistic in the classroom. A failure is a part of life. Teach them. It's not that the end of the world. We can learn by the mistake. Try to learn and try to again. Try again. What motion of the classroom be like that only. A teacher is always a role model. Be a supportive, as ma'am said. We should be a good listener. A teacher is a good listener. Sometimes a child cannot express his views at home, but he or she will be very comfortable with the teacher. He's very comfortable. He just come to the class and say, ma'am, I have done this. Yeah, I have fought with my friend. What should I do? Just give me the suggestions. As we are going through this pandemic, my teachers, they are virtually connected with the students one to one. So we have daily making calls to the students. The teacher is on the video call with one to one the student and just listening to their problems, just listening to their anxiety and fear due to this uncertainty time. So all these we are getting connected, and other than classrooms are missing. What the classroom is actually the main thing, but we are trying to connect with the students by this virtual classroom also. So a teacher plays a very significant role
Absolutely.
and a positivity which she
So,
include.
that you mentioned words like forgiveness and resilience and optimism and empathy. And yeah,
Yeah.
teachers are the role models, so they can impart these things. And the students are the ones who are going to learn from their teachers. So I just wanted to ask you that since we talked about these virtues, and so and we know that the schools and the teachers are responsible who can impart these virtues to the students. So how exactly, we can create that environment in school?
Okay. Well, a very nice question. Before coming to the crux of the discussion, I would like to highlight few points because it behoves me to discuss on those lines. Like everybody is knowing that in the course of discussion, mental health issue is a very common issue. Everybody is aware of it. And each one of us definitely somehow face this challenge in their lives, some in a bigger form and a smaller form, maybe anyone. And some of us are able to overcome the challenge. Some of us are able to deal with the challenge successfully, but some are not. The people who are able to deal with the challenge or overcome the challenges are the resilient people. And the people who are not, they suffer through this mental illness. Now, since in the discussion we were talking like how it is going to affect our children when they are back to the school after this lockdown period, which is again a kind of unprecedented challenge we are all facing. We are connecting through online sessions. Other than that, also there are certain challenges which child deals on the day-to-day life. It has not been even noticed, as we all know that. The manifestations which we need to highlight is like depression, anxiety, fear, the phobia, parental pressure, academic pressure, and which leads to aggression, the depression, and the ferocity, and there are so many, so on. The list is very long. And if it is not treated, if it is not diagnosed on time, definitely it leads to a very worse condition. So it becomes a very important. I must say that it has been, now the schools have started recognizing this problem and started using the techniques and the strategies in the school to address these issues. Okay, so the question is, how can we nurture these 4 fundamental basic skills. I could say these are the skills, 4 fundamental basic skills in the children in day-to-day life. Let us come to the point, what to be done. First of all, we should know exactly what is the reason, and then later on, how we can deal with it. As I told you, many schools have already started, but still, we need to know exactly how we should go in a very channelized manner, in a proper manner. The schools need to create 2 rooms, special rooms. The rooms should be created on the basis of the gravity of the need. We may call it nurturing room, we may call it you can name it as you wish. A room for the special need. The kids who are facing, as ma'am said, the slow learners and maybe the kids who are not able to cope up, going through the depression or the severe cases, we cannot overlook. So there should be a room which should be open, it should have the open door policy, and it should be under the supervision of the special educator or the psychologist or anybody who's able to understand the entire scenario. When we talk about the resilience, the very first factor, and I feel that is of utmost importance, we understand this is a kind of recovery phase. It takes time. It is not that just you have counseled somebody and the child is okay. No, it takes a lot of time. You never know. The child has been to a very huge or some past history trauma, or maybe something which is unforgettable. He cannot share it with anyone because nobody is actually seeking to help him out. So in that case, those kids should be, first of all, diagnosed. These cases should be diagnosed for the nurturing room. They should be identified, and then they should be helped. Their regular counseling is required, and regular practice definitely. When they are recovering, when we call it recovery phase, we need to teach all those 4 skills which we are talking about. First of all, definitely the resilience. Second is that you said forgiveness. Third is optimism. And 4th is, of course, I forgot, ma'am. What's with that? The 4th one was empathy. Sorry. So yeah, empathy. So these are all interrelated. Just let me take one example. All the manifestation which I discussed, they are all very much interrelated. Like our body system, we have several organ systems in our body. Any one organ is hampered, we could see that others are also affected in the same manner. So when the child is suffering through any one of the dilemmas, you can say any one of the problems, maybe it is small or big, size we need to measure. We could see that if they are not diagnosed, they are not treated on time, it will lead to, in a worse condition, a medical illness, a medical condition. So this is very important for the school to identify, to diagnose, and to put them in the separate cell. And it should be very confidential, that their self-esteem should not go low. And at the same time, now what about the others who are not noticed? Like like the entire school should be given a kind of training. So there, as I told you, that there are 2 rooms. One is a special cell for the nurturing all those skills. And the second one, which is on the daily basis. We can just call it a session. We can call it as a daily routine workshop, wherein the children should be taught how to develop these skills and how to enhance these skills. At the same time, I think the parent plays a very important role. And child, he shares the bonding between the teacher and the parent. So it's a kind of triangle, you can say. The child has to maintain the balance between the parent and the school. The child spends almost 6 hours in the school, and the parent also, like he is spending some time at home also. So somewhere he is going through, this is a very common problem which come across, like I think everybody, all the educators, like the academic pressure. That is the need. We cannot help it out. So academic pressure is the one factor. I understand that wherein parents are very much involved, even the teachers are involved. But if they are not guided well, it again creates havoc in the life of the child. Child will go undermine a lot of problem. They never know exactly what is happening. He is unable to speak up. because it is a constant pressure coming from the school, from the parent, and nobody's understanding the problem. Whenever there's a problem, which I have personally, I have noticed in my school or anywhere, wherever I have worked, that if there is a problem in the child, you can start observing the child starts isolating himself. You can change and you can see the change in the behavior of the child. He starts isolating. He starts looking for a space where he can just hide himself. And slowly and gradually, you can see the changes are taking a bigger, phase. And that time the child is, he goes into a shell and a cocoon kind of thing.
Absolutely.
The issues are not addressed properly, definitely the child will face a lot of problem. So I would like to end because there's a shortage of time, I can understand. So these 4 things I understand, like daily assemblies or workshop to be given. Parents should be encouraged to understand the academic pressure the child faces, how to deal with it, and the expectations should be a limit. I mean, the child should understand exactly what is being expected, and if he's not able to cope up with that, he should not go for a disappointment also. So
Lovely thoughts shared, So I mean, was saying,
so
I think amazing, a lot of important insights that you have brought in terms of the experience that a child goes through, children having some kind of disability, and the role of teachers. Here, I just want to add one very important aspect, which is to do with, the vicarious learning that we talk about. You learn from what you see. So, for example, like you brought in the concept of how you connect to the parents and how it can be both parents, teachers together, and the child, of course, because I never forget the child. We have to remember that they are thinking beings, they're intelligent beings. So, in this process where we have parent, teachers, and the child, we have to remember that the early school, so they are vicariously seeing how a teacher is interacting with the student, how a principal interacts with the teachers, how a parent is connected, how the parents talk to each other. So there is a lot that goes on. We are not seeing the child rearing practices. So a part of the child rearing goes into, at home, but a lot comes into the school. I think vicarious learning we need to be really very careful about, that in spite of, I can understand the kind of crisis sometimes you're handling, but patience would be a very important, skill today, I would say. And like I think Divya ji, she has mentioned about some of these, skills, life skills. So I must tell you that, nowadays, people are talking about it as fundamental skills. No more are they soft skills or life skills, they're the fundamental. So that what that means, it should come into the core of your curriculum. So in spite of what you teach, you can learn, one software, you can learn another software. That's not a big deal. But you need to know the basics. Just like if you know the alphabets, you can write anything. So similarly, I think there is a lot of emphasis now on this approach, or eclectic approach, where you provide an environment, a conducive environment in the school. That is where there is a need. If you look at the Sustainable Developmental Goal 4, which talks about quality education, you will see it has emphasized a lot on teacher training. And this teacher training, my dear, is not to just do with, training or use of a technology, but how are they evolving? How are they learning a new skill? How are they able to handle the chaos around them? Because the children who are passing out from this ideal environment that you provide in the school, they're going to go out into a more chaotic world. So are we paying enough attention that our students whom we are so caring about their views, are we also making them strong? Are we also making them, capable? So that's something, a word that is, I thought I must share. And I heard the two of the speakers, so it's great. So Reena, we can move on to the next speaker. Thank you so much.
I knew you would be able to say a lot on this topic, because these are your favorite areas, resilience and optimism. Okay, I'll now go to Ms. Deepika Malik. A lot has been said here about the kind of problems that the students are facing. But I would like to know from
Reena,
your
we can't hear you.
Okay. I was asking that a lot has been said about the problems that the students face in the school and otherwise in life. But Ms. Deepa Malik, I would like to know from your experience that what kind of problems the teachers, and I'm including teachers also here, because teachers also are humans and they also, I'm sure, are facing problems from home and schools. So what kind of problems the teachers and the students are facing in the school setting?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Am I audible? Okay. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. The challenges, my dear colleagues have already discussed a lot about it, but I have my own views I would like to share. Basically, I find that amongst the students, the mental health problem relates to those students who are either very brilliant or those who are weak in their.
Become mute.
We can't hear you.
Yeah,
Now you are. Now you're back.
yeah, is it audible now?
It's audible now.
Am I audible? Fine.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay, okay. So the very brilliant ones, right? They are under parental pressure. They are under their expectations from them are very high. So they are always under stress and pressure that, and which ultimately leads to their anxiety and depression and the fear of unknown. They don't know if they don't get 99 or if they don't get into good IIT or IIM or high class college or school, what will happen then? That fear of unknown, what if, triggers mental illness in them at a very young age because they are constantly under that pressure that what will happen if they don't get. And once they get into IIT, the race doesn't stop here. They again have to face a lot of competition. So that mental stress, that pressure which was already there, it goes on accumulating rather than stepping back or rather than reducing. And on the other hand, similarly, the things happen with the lower section. The children who are not able to cope up in studies, they are promoted on the basis of some or the other reason, and they are just not able to make up to even level benchmark level 33% passing. They also have this kind of problems. Then they are also not able to. They also have a fear. If the parents keep on saying, "What if the child will not pass?" I mean, the passing thing, the failing thing. There's a lot of stress on the children. So that stress also goes on building up, and the child gradually feels that he's not capable of getting marks and getting into the college or school, and so he's worthless. He's not capable of anything. So he goes into depression. He feels that he remains introverted. He feels he's good for nothing. So that kind of situation should not arise, and every child should be given the space that nothing, no unknown fear. If you get 90, fine. If you get 30, fine. There are options available to you. This is what we have to create. We have to create this kind of atmosphere in the school. We have to convey to the parents also that there is no such thing that if you do not pass, if you do not get 100, the life doesn't end. So that is first thing, very, very important. This has to be eliminated from our curriculum. Then talking about the mental health on the behavioral issues and psychological issues, there are various reasons, maybe academically, maybe family background, or maybe in genes or any circumstances. The child becomes sad, withdrawn, introvert, tries to harm himself, uses abusive languages, shows aggression all the time, ready to fight. So these are the common problems we always face. And in that regard, this was the behavioral problems. And then we psychologically also we come across many students who are saying who will never speak up what is in their mind, what is in their heart, how they're feeling. They cannot concentrate, they cannot do whatever teacher is telling them. They cannot apprehend, they cannot comprehend with the teacher's instructions, and they are withdrawn. So these are the psychological problems, challenges which the students face. So to overcome all this, as the colleague, Ma'am Padma Kali also said, and Ma'am Renu Singh also said, that the environment has to be made very conducive, very comfortable for a child's growth from the very beginning, from the primary section. We have to create that kind of we have to give them a zone in which they feel that they have to be good human beings, psychologically strong, emotionally strong, and everything will come to them. Everything will come their way. So that is what I feel for the students. And as far as you're saying about the teachers, like you have added my point that in teachers are also undergoing a lot of pressure, right? The generation of today is very, very, I should say knowledgeable, ready to answer, full of so much of information. And if at times they are abusive and they are very, very, they are from that background that they don't bother what the teacher is. That kind of problems also the teachers are facing. That some of the senior students, especially, they don't treat teachers with respect. So at that time, teacher feels very humiliated and very helpless. So at that time, we, being the principal, being the heads, we have to guide the teachers also that student and teachers are not at the same platform. We have to guide them. So we have to take care of our teachers also. Because if teachers feel good, they will make the children feel good and the best. But if the teachers are not taken care of, they will not take care of our students. So they have to be guided that yes, students will be students and a teacher will be teacher. So teacher should get a proper support from the authorities, higher authorities, that your respect, your dignity is our duty. So if that is done, so teachers' mental health will also improve. I feel it will also improve. And another thing, if in the smaller cases, in the children of the primary, their problems are more psychological, right? Khana nahi khana and things like that. They don't open up. But for them, their teachers are role models. So for those teachers, we have to tell that these teachers have to be happy, like Divya ma'am said, that happiness has to go because it's a vicious circle. It's a circle again, the happiness circle. So that I very much agree. The teachers do face problems at that time. And sometimes the smaller children, when they don't work, when they don't obey, and teachers say something just to convince them, just to take care of them. And the problems come sometimes from the parents, right? Not from the younger students, but from the parents. So at that time, the teacher has to tackle the parents also. So there she has to be a motivator, a facilitator for the children as well as for the parent also. So that skill also has to be inculcated in the teachers, that you have to handle the parents in such a way that your dignity is maintained, your respect is maintained, and your work should reflect you. Your work has to speak.
Since we are already talking to you, could we also have a concluding statement from you? Because we are left with very little time now.
I want to add to her, concluding remarks that she can make. Very good points came through her. My only issue is I don't like to, classify students. That's one thought that is coming from practitioners these days. Our bigger problem that we are ignoring mental health issues when we feel that who should have a problem, who should not have a problem. But as a principal, like you are so concerned really about the teachers, what is the kind of solutions that you're giving in your school? It may be a great idea where, participants, they want to know that what is the solution? Okay, how are you dealing with a student who, due to some kind of anxiety, has become abusive? So I think, like it said in Bible, hate the sin, not the sinner. So I think if abuse is could be an example, the reason of abuse could be to do with not just the background of the community that they're living in. It could be to do with some other psychopathological issues. It could be a borderline personality disorder issues, or it could be some kind of anxiety that the child has not been able to speak up. So there could be so many. So maybe while you are giving your concluding remarks, can you also give a kind of a solution that what you're doing? Thank you.
Yeah. In that case, I would say, like, such a child who is one of those cases. Recently, we had one or two cases in our school. So we have to give him a kind of punishment that this is wrong. Whatever he is doing is wrong. We have to make him realize. We have to give a mild punishment. And at the same time, we have started counseling him. Being myself a senior teacher, through her and myself also, I had been talking to him. It was a boy, and I've been talking to him and guiding him that what is good and what is bad and what is important in life. So if we talk to him on that level, the child does changes. It takes time, but it will change. So we have to tell him in a great perspective that life is not just talking nonsense or whatever he was doing. It's much more than that. So in life, when you move ahead, what is important for you, just consider that and go ahead and think about your parents. Something we have to say that also. I said that also. So in this way, I try to bring him on the track.
Padmakali ma'am, can we have some solutions from you? Because, this is a very pertinent question. And I'm sure you have a lot more to share on this.
I was thinking I will hear the others for their remarks and I'll speak at the end. But I'll quickly take one question, which I think anybody else can also answer. They're talking. The question is about if a student, a child who is struggling due to depression, and then naturally the confidence is low. So how do you handle such children? So maybe this is a good answer that a principal can give. If a parent is confided in you that there is some kind of, some kind of indication, if not a gross illness, but if they are a bit in the threshold of depression, what are you doing? So maybe any of you can answer this. In your school, how do you take care of such a child? Yes, Divya, yes.
May I take the question? Yeah. I feel, ma'am, here, when you're saying parent has brought to you, half the issue is solved if the parent is on the same side as you. So if you've got the parent on board and together you can work out solutions, a lot of problems are solved. So for me, I think the most important thing is for to see eye to eye, which they do not always do, because it is difficult for a parent to accept that the child is getting delinquent or whatever term may be used here. So I feel that first, if it is school, so help is there, but it has to be accepted by the parent and the child. So the first thing is to have them get confidence that we are doing it for them and it is for their benefit. So once that is ingrained into them, then I think we can work with them and there are strategies to get them back on board. The rest of the children.
So Ashu has some answer to it, yes? Your mic is on mute.
Ma'am, actually, first of all, we have to recognize why the child is depressed or quiet in the classroom, whether he or she is not able to understand the subject, or either he or she need any remedial classes, or he might be juggling with the numbers or with the alphabets. The basic thing is, first we should know a child whether he is able to recognize or identify the letters or the Varnmala, Hindi Varnmala, or the numbers or not. Because as some of the parents, they just want, our child is 6 or 7 years old, now he or she should be in class 2. We don't want him to be in the junior classes, because they shifted from the village area and they want their child to be in the city schools. So they don't want to accept that the age is the factor. They just prioritize the age. They don't prioritize the knowledge of the child. So this, we should have we are undertaking the remedial classes. So few of the children, we are from having the village background. So we have the separate periods from them, so that they are able to recognize, identify the numbers and all, so that the child would able to be in the class, so that he or she should not be alienated in the class, that the other students, they are able to recognize the things, they are able to answer the teacher question, but he or she is not. And we did get the result also. Many of our students are now, they are cope up with the classrooms. They are now in the class. They are now running with the children.
We got your thought. Primarily, when we are talking about building the self-confidence, like I said, that to a parent, I mean, it takes a lot of courage for a parent to really even ask such a question. So one of it, half the battle is won. Like I really go by what Divya just mentioned, Divyaji, that, once parents acknowledge, it becomes very easy for a school to tackle. But here I want to talk about reinforcement. Like, you should think about baby steps, just like when your child started to walk, you gave reinforcement at every stage. So I think one of the things that to build confidence, remember, depression is not a disability. Depression is a state of mind. Depression could be a very temporary when there is a trauma around. Depression over a period of time can become, which is below the threshold and where you talk about as mental illness. But today, if you look at the statistics, not only in the world, you will see the youth, the depression is going. So I think one has to accept it and work towards looking at what kind of lifestyle that the child has. So build confidence, take baby steps. For every step, the parents and the family is there. But at the same time, you have to let the child understand themselves. So you cannot stand in order to, do away with the stage fright. What do you do? In order to do away with the stage fright, the child has to be on the stage. So you cannot be hand-holding them beyond a certain extent, but there is need for conversation, dialogue, counseling, guidance. So this is an answer to that question. And there's another interesting question I can
Very
see.
interesting question. Yes, ma'am.
The child wants to seek psychological help from the teacher, but the parents don't support the idea. How do you tackle such a case? I think this is really to the principals. You have to answer it.
Dr. Banerjee, I want to add something for this.
Yes. No, can you answer? Are you answering this question that I've just now spoke about?
Yes, why not?
If a child wants to seek a psychological help in school, but the parents do not support of the idea, how do you tackle the case?
Yeah, lots of cases are there.
Deepika
I
Malik.
want to add something.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah. May I speak, ma'am? Yeah, in that case, one of the teacher, a senior teacher, or maybe the principal can be the mentor. Because if psychological support is not wanting, that parents do not want, then a senior teacher who's got an experience of such vast experience, I think will have a more connectivity with the child, and every alternate days or every 2-3 days she can converse with him or her, whosoever, and try to bring out what is inside him. And I am sure that the child definitely confides in the teacher once the connect is built. So if a teacher has that kind of caliber, that kind of tact to bring out the best in the child, to let him talk his mind, his heart, so that will definitely help. And I have been experiencing this. I have that experience.
Actually, I just want to take a minute of yours, Reena ma'am. Am I audible?
Sure, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Adil. Actually, we all are talking a lot about the children and mental health. No doubt, we all care about the children's and the mental health as well. But dear, are we really listening to the student? We all are pondering our thoughts on children's. Everyone is coming, every subject teacher is coming over there and saying their priority of their subjects. But are we really listening to the children? First thing, we need to listen our children. And for this, we need patience. Not a daily routine school cannot help in that manner. Beyond that limit, we need to work. We have to listen. Like a motherly, it is well said that the teacher is the mother of the child as well. So we have to listen patiently. We have to devote our time beyond the school limits. Second thing, the child himself and herself also knows that he is being judging by the teacher every minute. Am I right or wrong? We always judge.
Great.
So that is the main thing. We are judging the child.
Sure. We got your point. Excellent point.
Is what I'm feeling.
Hmm.
We shouldn't judge the children. We can give them maximum time. And after having a bonding with the children, and same with the parents also. When the PTM is there, the teacher is totally ready with the complaints and lots of other suggestions. She just make them realize that she knows better than them. So that is not the right way. We should create a bond with the parents, and afterwards we can deliver
Absolutely.
our thing.
Yeah.
And they will take
So-
the thing positively from the teachers also, that if the child need any psychological counseling or even a clinical also, not an issue, they can take, they will listen you, they will show their faith in you, and ultimately you get the result also. This is the thing I want to convey in my points. Thank you.
Teachers should not be judgmental. And ma'am, could we have your concluding remarks?
Okay, great. I think today's discussion, I mean, this can go on for hours because there is so much to be, heard from each one of you. I must first of all tell you that each of your thoughts, these are thought leadership that has come from each of the most eminent principals and heads of the institution of schools, and you are doing wonderful. On this note, I must also end by saying that, one fact that we have all gathered together and we are working on this issue talks about the importance of this issue of mental health and well-being. And remember, in order to be successful, this is the base. We need to build on the base. We need to create an environment, like I think the last speaker, Mamta Bola, she was trying to talk about the voice of the student. Yes, unless you listen to the children, you are not aware of it. But remember that we are not just harping about the fact of a happiness that comes out of pleasure. We are talking about a happiness that comes through your engagement, through purpose in life, the meaningfulness, the relationships that you have. So you need to look at different aspects of the life of a child. The child is not just as a human, it's not a robot. They are full of issues, their complex situations, individual differences, their talents, competencies are different. So I think we need to get together and find out a way, and possibly I must want to end here by saying, please involve, while I know each of the senior teachers may be very helpful, but please take professional help like counselors, psychologists, who can really come and ease the way. It is very difficult for a child to open up to every teacher because there would be a fear of being judged, a fear of losing out maybe some marks or some kind of assessment. So it is sometimes good to have psychologists and counselors who can actually give a very good hearing to the children. And at the end, it is a beautiful journey. And remember that it is also the, I think the aim of a child, in order to do well in life, they have to stand up. So all you need to do is a helping hand. Rest, I think, I am sure, with the kind of a good environment in many ways in India, still today in a lockdown, you're not feeling as lonely as people far away, maybe in Italy and parts of Europe. Till today, although we have kept the elderlies away, still there are people who are serving the elderly. So I think that way, the kind of social environment that India has, I'm very hopeful that our students will today, they will shine, they will come out, they will come to our university. We do have a lot of such programs where children come and talk to the psychologists. So I think it is a great, initiative, and this, academic leadership forum. Through this forum, we have voiced a lot of good things. So I'm very personally, I think we'll be putting all of this and share this to the public in the public domain. Thank you very much, and all the best. Stay well, stay happy, and take care of your people around you. Thank you very much.
Did